I'm Mark Richards. I grew up in Texas. I went to Caltech as a graduate student. That was when I moved to California. I've been on the faculty here since 1989 in Earth and Planetary Science. Right now I'm the Dean for the Division of Mathematical and Physical Sciences and the Executive Dean for the College of Letters and Science. Well, I should start off by saying that I love Ansel Adams' work, as most people do, and I'm a great admirer of his technique and his art. I'm mainly focused on his photography having to do with buildings and structures and machines and things like that. And it's interesting to me because my overall impression, if you want that now, is that this is not a flattering portrait of the University of California or the state of California. It seems moody, kind of gloomy almost, and foreboding, cautionary. Adams, of course, was a great conservationist. And to me, he portrays a giant machine being created, the University of California, and the kind of extension of its influence and its reflection of what was happening in California in the 1960s with the enormous state water project, basically re-engineering the whole San Joaquin Valley and the Sierra Nevada hydrological system. Along with that, of course, was the huge ramp-up of the aerospace industry, especially in Southern California. And my reaction to this is that maybe one of the reasons that this portfolio that Adams obviously spent a huge amount of time on didn't receive more attention is not just that Clark Kerr was fired or the turbulence of the late 60s, but that it's not a particularly pleasant portrait to view. This is not, to me, this isn't something that would make me love either the state of California or the University of California. It's interesting. Some of the pictures are beautiful, and some are flattering, I would say. I've perhaps reacted to the images that strike me the most strongly. But my overall impression is one of foreboding. This is the most arresting image of all the images that I saw in this book. And this is an image of the cyclotron, Ernest Lawrence's original, or one of his original small kind of 4-inch desktop cyclotron devices. Now, I've seen these before. They're actually beautiful devices. They're made of brass in the right kind of lighting and with the right kind of display. They're beautiful things to look at. But in this image, it either looks like some kind of alien microbe or a torture device of some type. This is not a beautiful image of a physics experiment. The cyclotron is arguably the single most important scientific invention to come out of the University of California. I mean, some people in biological sciences may argue with that, but in terms of not only its scientific importance, but its influence on the evolution of the university, it was enormous because Lawrence invented this device to explore particle physics. It was a beautiful experiment, one of the great experimental achievements of all physics, and he deservedly received the Nobel Prize. But it gave rise to Berkeley and Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory's role, and eventually the role of Los Alamos in the development of the atomic bomb, because it made Berkeley the center of the universe in particle physics, especially experimental particle physics. Of course, eventually they built huge cyclotrons. The 184-inch cyclotron building is still an iconic building at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and then the Bevatron, which I'll talk about later, which was even larger. The existence of this group of physicists, including Oppenheimer, really engendered the role of the University of California in making the atomic bomb. And I think it was Sproul at the time accepted the charge to start up Los Alamos as a national service under the condition, I believe, that it would only be a 6-month project, and the University of California had no business being in the weapons design area. And now, 65 years later, more than almost 70 years later, we still run Los Alamos and Lawrence Livermore. This isn't the way the physicists like to think of this. This is a dark, threatening set of objects to me. And I don't think that's accidental. So Image 3.2 is the Bevatron itself. This image just speaks for itself. It's this giant, hulking, dark machine. In all fairness, I don't know exactly the history. A lot of this work may have been classified, but this was not so directly linked to weapons research at the time, so I don't want to be unfair here. But this image of this machine, which was responsible for the discovery of a large fraction of the known subatomic particles, and it was a fantastic piece of science and experiment, is again not portrayed in particularly flattering light. It looks like the Death Star from Star Wars, if you will, flattened. And then there's this image, which is both kind of future dystopian but also humorous, I think, on the part of Adams, where he's got this machine called Alice at Lawrence Livermore Lab. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Alice was for. I'm not sure if it was directly related to weapons research, but Livermore was basically a weapons lab, so I have to think that it probably was. And so you have this human face, fairly cheerful-looking human face, peering out of this giant machine, whose purpose you don't really know, but you expect that it has to do with particle physics and weapons research. So this isn't such a grim image, but it goes in the same vein, and it certainly casts a sense of humor about the place of man relative to these machines.